All right, g'day everyone. Welcome to Fly Fish Live again. We're here, exciting time, first semi-final, and we've got Dave O'Donovan over there in Ireland, and we've got Cory Scott down in New Zealand. Let's head over to Dave. We've actually got our special guest today, Peter Driver from Piscari Fly. He's actually all.
Hey everybody.
As well.
Who's he?
Who's he? Well, let's head over to Dave over there in Ireland, mate. How are the conditions over there?
Hi, Josh. Good. The light is fading a little bit. It's a very dull evening. We're after just a big heavy shower of rain, but it's comfortable. It is what it is. You just hope the fish are playing game. If they're not where I am here, they're not going to be anywhere because it's a good spot. I know the area pretty well, so.
Whereabouts are you for those guys that don't know?
I'm in Thomastown, County Kilkenny, on the River Nore. I've been practicing here a lot because it's one of those rivers where we have a lot of competitions here. So Peter runs one here, and just one here in a couple of weeks' time. So it's full of fish. It's stuffed with fish. So we just hopefully they're taking nymphs tonight.
And we heard you say back at the interview when you and Mark were having an interview, you said, Cory better hope that it doesn't rain. Did it rain?
Yeah, we had some rain, but it's nothing we're talking about. It wasn't enough to make me go to the black water again. The black water dropped about 1.5 feet.
Yeah.
And it wasn't suitable for today. I'd love to have gone to the black water. It's a great section of water. But it just didn't suit for tonight.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's head over to Cory. Cory, how are you, mate?
Good morning.
Good morning. How fresh is it over there?
Oh, it's a cold start. I was, you know, when all the grass is wet and you're trying to get into your waders and you're dancing on your socks, trying to balance on one leg. And then I looked down at my neoprene socks and I thought they were covered in sand. And as I slipped them in the boot, it was actually thick with ice.
How's the cameraman? Has he got studs on his boots today?
He'll be hovering, mate. He'll be hovering. I've done some exercise this week, so there won't be as much puffing.
So how are the fishing conditions, Cory? How do you think they suit you or?
Oh, mate, we don't really ever fish this river in the dark, eh? So yeah, I'm not too sure. It's probably going to be a good half an hour before the sun comes up over this ridgeline here. I don't know. It's cold. Yesterday morning was 11 degrees at the same time, and this morning's 3. So we've just got to try and activate those fish with a few special flies.
Yep. You got any up your sleeve?
Yeah, I'll reveal those later.
All right. Sounds good. I'm sure we're waiting to see what they are. All right. Anything you guys want to say? Just going to let you know that so just the same as before, once you catch a fish, hold the fish up in the net, and then you yell out fish, controller will say fish, and then release the fish to make a score. And just make sure the controllers see the fisherman at all times on the camera. Otherwise, the fish score won't count.
Sure. All right.
Apart from that.
Okay, Cory, best of luck. Wish you the best of luck, Cory.
You too, Dave.
I know it's cold out there. I hope you warm up a little bit there, catching a few fish.
Oh, I'll be overheating in about 3 minutes into the session, mate.
That's now you're talking, yeah.
Awesome. So you guys have got I'll give you about another 5 or 6 minutes to go and get into position. Do what you got to do, and then we'll give you a 30-second warning, and then I'll blow the whistle, and away we go.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to Peter Driver. How are you, buddy?
Not too bad now, Josh, and yourself.
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Now, you'll be watching this game with pretty carefully, I suppose, because you're coming up against Sunter, and if you get over that match, you'll be playing the winner of this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Every match is going to be intriguing now. The two semi-finals that are coming up tonight and Monday should be good. You know, there should be good competitions. I know some people are maybe not giving Cory much of a chance here, but you know, I watched some videos he posted there during the week about some practice, and you know, he was still hitting numbers, the 15 to 20 mark, and we know he hit those numbers in practice for his first round as well. So you know, the potential of these rivers to produce 20 fish is there. Plus, you know, I know he's going to work. He's going to work his heart out to try and you know, keep it as tight as he can and stuff. And you know, on any given day, I've seen some of the best beats on the River Nor produce only 2 or 3 fish in an hour. You know, if things just aren't right and you know, you don't get momentum and stuff like that. So, you know, hopefully this match is going to be, you know, there's going to be some you know, good close call at the end of it, some good fishing, some good catches, and you know, it's definitely not a foregone conclusion. I certainly would think so. I was on the Nor all day today, and it certainly isn't fishing up to its normal potential. So Dave made a last minute decision to come up here and compete on this river, and we're going to see now if it plays out for him. You know, this is the exciting thing about this kind of tournament. You make decisions, last minute decisions. You make decisions during the match, and they can either work in your favour, but then just as easily they can work against you. So you know, it's going to be intriguing. I know Cory's fishing a different piece of water today. Again, I had a look at it on a video, and it's definitely more broken. Has more kind of identifiable pocket water or holding water, as he was describing it. So you know, that might make it life a little bit easier for him to pick out those couple of fish and get on the scoreboard early and get some momentum. Maybe put Dave under a bit of pressure and they force him into making some decisions that he mightn't want to make. You know, so it'll be interesting, it'll be intriguing, absolutely really intriguing. I'm looking forward to it.
Now, have you fished the? I know over there in Ireland, a lot of people that I talk to, they usually fish that river sort of daytime, like morning, lunchtime. So, have you fished it much in the evening, like what Dave's about to do?
I have done a good bit over the years. I live right beside, literally the River Nor is 400 or 500 yards from my front door, so I do fish it quite regularly. I don't do an awful lot of evening fishing, but I have done quite a bit. As Dave was saying, there is an astronomical head of fish in that river. If they come on the rise in the evening time, you know, there can be a lot of surface activity. But this time of the year in July, mid-July, that surface activity can be very unpredictable. It can be very fussy on what flies they're going to take. They can, you know, do an awful lot of half attempt rises, drown in the dry fly rather than commit takes. So, you know, it can be frustrating on the angler bringing up a lot of fish and missing them, or hitting the odd one, or bringing up none at all to a dry fly. So the evening time can be tricky. What I like about today is the daytime fishing is the river tends to be a little bit more consistent. You know, when you're Euro nymphing out, Davis chose to go Euro nymphing this evening, which is really interesting because if those fish push up off the bed of the river into the mid-table or the top of the river, Dave's going to be nymphing underneath basically, and you know, he could end up really struggling there to put together a bag of 15 or 20 fish in an hour session. And if those trout move up, now whether he's got the dry fly setups and stuff ready to go, I don't know. But he's definitely starting off with the Euro nymphs. I was talking to him there a couple of hours ago on the phone, and he said he was coming up. And he said, you know, he's predominantly going to he's picked nymphing water, but it's, you know, it's 8:30, 8:45 here at night. If those trout move up in that water table, well, then he runs the risk of putting these nymphs in underneath him and fishing underneath the majority of fish that's in them swims. So, you know, it can go either way. You know, it can go either way. It's so hard to call until you're in the moment and you see what activity. It is nice and overcast. There's a little drop of fresh water in the air as such, so that could entice a rise. It could entice the fish stick to the bottom. It's you know, we won't know if we see them get going.
We've got about 4 minutes before we get the whistle underway. How about you tell us a little bit, for those guys who might be watching that haven't heard of Piscari Fly or anything like, what sort of products do you guys do?
Well, we do pretty much everything here, kind of focused on the competitive angling side of things, river fishing. We still, you know, stock a lot of product that we're here for lake flies, some saltwater stuff, like stuff. But mostly our focus would be on our specialty, which would be competition river fishing. You know, the syndicate rod range, we carry the syndicate rod range. We carry a lot of products fly tying, fly fishing, but mostly based on modern Euro and infant techniques. And that's our speciality. That's what we live, eat, breathe. So that's what we focus on. We're based in Ireland. We're both 3 to 4 years old, and it's been a really good adventure. Never easy, and it takes a lot of time, a lot of commitment, to keep it up going, because we try and accommodate everyone's questions. We get an awful lot of questions. We like to share our information that we have, and do a lot of coaching and guiding here as well. So it takes a lot of time, but it's really enjoyable and very rewarding.
And you've got a YouTube channel too, I believe, and you've got a few.
I have a bit of a YouTube channel for fly tying. Some Saturday nights, whenever I get time, I'll do some live streaming as well on fly tying, stuff like that. But we have Biscari Fly YouTube channel, and I got a blog there as well, where I do some articles and stuff that on some kind of technical aspects of stuff I've learned over the years. And basically that's what I do. I share the information. I travel quite a bit to competitions around Europe and pleasure fishing around Europe stuff. So any information I get to bring it back and share to our customers and people that want to learn, and it's good.
Yeah. Okay, I'll just get the competitors back. If you can get Cory's controller, if you can just let him know he's got to start on the bank.
Oh yeah, okay. So got to start on the bank.
This is the bank.
Didn't hear that one.
Show him the bank.
Well, you've got to start on the side, not in the water. All right, so are you guys ready?
Yeah, ready here with Dave.
We'll just get Cory into position. Is Cory on the bank on the side of the river?
Put up on the bank.
Yeah, I couldn't see his legs.
All right, sit on his ass.
He's sitting on his bum. All right. Are we ready, guys?
Let's look, guys. Let's get it on.
All right. Are we ready? And set. Off you go.
Okay, brother.
Here we go. Should be interesting.
Fish on for Dave. Fishing in it for Dave.
First one. First cast. He's obviously. Did you reckon he saw that one sitting there, Peter, or is he just?
Well, I know that he's fishing really well, and basically what he's fishing there right now at the moment is a small little section of river that swims around the side of a small island. And if the river was 6 inches lower, you couldn't fish there. There'd be no fish there. Might even be any water there. But at the moment, there's a little bit of water coming through there, and it can hold a couple of small fish. It's a sort of a spot for 3 or 4 fast fish if they're in it. And obviously he's straight into action there now.
Fish on.
Fish on again.
Fishing in it for Dave.
Off to a flyer.
Better fish.
Better fish. We saw a few guys have a really good start, and then the other guy came back in a couple of these other games. So anything can happen in this.
Possible in this type of a tournament, and you're looking to hit those hot spots. I know Cory's going to do a bit more searching than Dave has, but cover maybe a bit more expansive water. But like anything's liable to happen. There's always that chance. You've always got to have that chance. That's match fishing. There's always that chance.
Would you be sitting there where Cory is? I'm not sure if you can quite see the water there.
Yeah, I can see it pretty good. It looks like a nice tail, kind of off a bit of current. You would imagine winter fish would be sitting in around there somewhere. He's on the move now. I think Cory's plan is going to be here to test a lot of his water. Try find those pockets of fish that he was mentioning in practice. So he's going to be on the move a lot, I think. As we can see, he's heading off across the country now. Cameraman's going to be.
Here we go again.
He's going to earn his money. He's going to earn his money today.
He's off and running. Yeah,
and Cory's got to do that. Cory's, as we know, fish in winter rivers. Fish, they're they're a bit more lethargic. Their metabolisms are lower, so and they tend to hide out, become very lazy as such. They got to stay out of current. They got to get a bit of protective water there to hide from the heavy winter currents and stuff. So his whole goal here is to search as much water as he can. If he can hit a pocket of fish early enough now, soon enough, please God, he can tie his match up nice and early and give himself a bit of confidence and get momentum and start putting a bit of pressure back on Dave a bit. Maybe force him into some decisions.
Dave looks
Dave
like
picked off his couple of fish there, and now he's moving. That's all it was there. 2 fish in that little pocket, and that's it. That's pretty much all it's there. Now it's change the tactics.
we've seen this a little bit in the last few games. People running like this is. I think this for some people was unheard of.
Oh, absolutely. Since this tournament has started, the amount of different conversations I've had with non-fishing people and said, holy moly, we never knew it was anything like that. We thought you were having a grand relaxing time on the bank of the river. So it's certainly opened up a lot of people's eyes into, how aggressive it is, how, physical it can be. The only one thing I suppose to say with a lot of this running and stuff, you only have a 1 hour session. And I suppose when I'm approaching a 1 hour session or a very short session like this, the more time you have to place in the water, the more chance you have of catching fish. So if you're up on the bank running and stuff like that, I know Cory mightn't have much of a choice, but it definitely can play a factor into the final tally score as regards. If you're spending 20 minutes on the bank running, you've only a 1 hour fishing session. That means you're only fishing for 40 minutes, possibly, maybe even less. So
fish on for Dave. Fishing in that for Dave.
Fish for Dave. I've got
the guys are moving and covering a lot of water. Same time, they've got to fish. They've got to fish. There's no medals here for covering the biggest amount of water.
Yeah.
No.
Got a guy here, Thomas Anketel. He said, hi, Josh and Peter. Question for Peter. Do you think this concept of fish in the net without measuring would be the way forward in World Championship level?
Good question, Tom. I suppose, in the current conditions, the way we with social distance and stuff like that, it's definitely an opportunity. A couple of advantages I see of this type of tournament. And I fish a few of these tournaments around Europe as well, where all fish count. There's less stress on the trout for one. Wild trout reserves globally are under pressure. And, when you're just hooking on your nymphet style, fast, small fish, or even larger fish, it's a very quick release. We're not carrying them back to the bank, put into trays to be possibly unintentionally mishandled by a controller and things like that. So it is certainly a way of, improving the welfare of the fish in a competition. It certainly makes for this concept where it's live streaming, it makes it very fast and very entertaining for the viewers. So I think there is room there for the concept. Absolutely. In regard to Phipps Moosh, the way Phipps Moosh score and
Fish for Cory.
Fish for
Cory.
No, Cory, well done.
There you go, bro.
So definitely there's benefits or advantages, disadvantages to the concept. But as regards Phipps Moosh, the way they score to get the world champion, to be who's going to be crowned world champion, well, an awful lot of tweaking might have to be done to it. But for fish welfare, I think it's a far better method than carting fish back in across rivers. Because I know times when you're fishing on some of the bigger rivers in Europe, you might have to carry those fish back across maybe 150 yards or more, and then you're trying your best to keep the fish in the water, but
fish on for Dave.
It's not as easy as they say.
Yeah, it's okay. You just focus on the fish.
It's not as easy as they say it is to keep that fish in the water, So it can be a very stressful time on the fish. So maybe something like this kind of concept of raw fish certainly makes it more exciting anyway.
Yeah. So where Cory is, it looks like he's trying to fish under those trees on the other side there. Is that where the fish would usually sit in the river?
Definitely in the winter conditions that he's in. Those fish are again looking for protective lies where they're going to be having a lot of objects in the water there to keep fish on. Come on, Cory, get him in the net, bud.
The big boy.
I think he's got a few big ones there.
Yeah, that's good action there now. He's picked that out in amongst those trees, those weeds. So Cory not only has a difficulty casting into those fishes, he's also got an awful difficulty into getting those fish out there because there's a lot of snags in there, I'm sure. And these are powerful fighting New Zealand rainbows. And then a competition like this, every fish counts, as we know. So it's this is a port fish from Cory. He brings back a 3-2 if he lands it, and Dave will drop the fish. So that's a 2-fish swing straight away, and give Cory a bit of confidence that he's doing the right thing.
It looks like a
I
pretty
think that's a really
one at the moment.
He only has one.
Yeah, you have to play him pretty carefully, I think, wouldn't he?
Yeah. He's going to make a go from now.
Fish for Cory.
Nice in there. Well done.
Three.
Yeah, boys, I thought we kept in New Zealand. You that, mate?
Nice fish.
Yoni. Keep going, brother.
So what? So
Dave is just moving up. He's just moving up along the margins of that current there, probably with two beads, just searching out along that current, looking for some fish just lining off the main stream there. There's a nice depth of water there, two and a half foot or so. He's working his way up to nice pieces. You can see on the picture there, he's coming up to 3 boulders now, just ahead of him, and where it goes into a bit of a neck. And that's a really good spot. There's always a couple of fish lying there. Cory's gone for a swim.
yeah.
And there's always a couple of good fish lying in there. So I'd be expecting Dave.
Fishing in there for Dave.
There's fish right where it was. That's a spot that's got a few fish there, So.
Yep. Is that what you look for when you're on a river? For those guys who are not real familiar, is where there's 2 channels coming in and meet each other like that. Like there's a little island. You're
always looking for that spot where where a brown trout in the Irish rivers anyway, where a brown trout can just lie in off the main currents or the gravy trains that are going to bring the food by them, where they don't have to burn off too much energy, but yet they're very close, that they can just drift in and out if they want to feed, or food is passing by them at a regular basis. So that's an ideal spot where Dave is there now. You can see the main current out to his right. He's just standing in on the left and just nymphing straight upstream in those little pockets.
Fish on for Dave.
As you can see, he's starting to pick up a few fish there.
Fishing in there for Dave.
Fish for Dave. How
He got a bit of bother there. I think that's unfortunate. He got that nice fish in the net there, and he brought it back to 3-2. So a little bit of trouble here for Cory now. It's going to eat up a little bit of essential time, and really Cory doesn't have the time to lose on the river he's fishing. He needs to be fishing for as long as possible there to keep that scoreboard ticking over, and hopefully hit that honey hole at some stage to get back into this game.
How many fish can you find in like a honey hole? Like they usually sit in 2s and 3s or 7?
It depends. I've seen honey holes can hold 10, 15 fish. Depends on the size of the honey hole. Depends on the river and the fish that are in it. Depends on the size of the fish that are there too. If there's 1 or 2 dominant fish in there, they can keep pretty much everything else away. So, it varies. It varies from river to river, pool to pool.
We've got Brian Noons here. He said back onto the handling of the fish competition. Is there a possibility to have nets with built-in scales that feed information wirelessly to the handler? This would allow for points based on weight rather than size.
Yeah, good idea. How it would work? How accurate that would be would leave an awful lot of controversy. How accurate it would be, but definitely, it's something. I know as a competitive angler, it's something, and as an organizer, I organize a lot of competitions. It's something I'm very conscious of is fish welfare. Especially wild trout welfare, because they are under pressure. There's a lot of predators, a lot of things going against them, water quality and stuff like that. So when we host tournaments, we always, we can never overemphasize enough. The fish welfare. We must protect our fish. We must look after them. Barbarous
for Dave. Fish on for Dave.
Fish must be kept in the water. Must be handled well by the controllers and stuff like that. So we do emphasize as much as possible. But who knows? Further down the road, some kind of a concept is going to have to be
fishing in there for Dave.
Fish for Dave. Yep. I suppose there'll be technology come out not too far away. I reckon they could.
Absolutely.
It looks quite deep there where Cory's fishing.
Yeah, fish on for Cory.
Fish for Cory. Fish for Cory.
Come on, Cory.
It's like a single bank. There's a bit of a lip that drops off.
Small fish for Cory now. There could be chance of another couple of small fish there sitting with that small fish if it's a nice protective ledge or something like that. Where that bigger fish that he caught before seemed to be kind of isolated there on his own. So if you could just get a little bit of rhythm here.
Do you find the bigger fish sit with the smaller fish, or the bigger fish sit with the bigger fish and the smaller ones with the
You can
smaller
often
ones?
find that the bigger fish can be isolated on their own because they're a dominant size. You know, they need a certain amount of food to keep them going. Now, if it's a larger pool, there will be a hierarchy throughout that pool where you will have some dominant fish that would be kind of top of the food chain there. But I can often find an awful lot of time when you get one or two of those smaller fish, there can be a pod up there, and they tend to hang out themselves in a slacker water. Maybe playing sticking to the gravy train, where the more dominant fish are controlling, like so.
He's really motoring through that water. Cory.
Yeah, he's moving. He's warming up a bit now, I'd say.
Yep. Fish on again for Cory. Yep. Fish for Cory.
Another fish.
Cory.
And you can see there, like, there's a good example of, we talk about
15
spooking
minutes in,
fish and being careful.
Aye.
Cory literally just ran across that river
Aye.
30 seconds before he caught that fish in the same spot. So,
Yeah.
Cory mentioned something in the start of the video. He's going to try and aggravate those fish a bit, get them going, whatever nymphs he's using. But you can see there, by actually wading through the water, he's probably waking some of those fish up. And those fish aren't just taking those nymphs out of hunger; they're taking them out of aggression as well. And that's one thing with your nymph. You have two ways of catching those fish. One could be catching them; they're eating that nymph for hunger because it looks like food. But the other option is that your nymph is an aggressor, and the fish are being aggressive and just attacking that. Like so, he's crossing again. It'll be interesting to see here now if he can pick up another one. He's in a bit of bother.
Is that a good tactic, just to zigzag up the river?
It depends. It depends on the fishing. If you're grayling fishing, it certainly can help get those grayling going because grayling love the disturbance in the water. It can really bring them on a bit. Some wild brown trout, sometimes it can get them going, but sometimes it can put them off just as much. So it depends. It depends on every day. Probably in Cory's situation, it's going to wake those fish up a little bit. They're dormant, they're lethargic. It's early morning, it's cold, winter water, so they might need a little bit of a wake up call. Could help.
Do you think we might see Cory have a few more hits, like closer towards the end of the hour because of the daylight and the warming up just a little bit?
I think as the session goes on, the longer Cory can stay in touch with Dave here, the better it's going to be for Cory. Because I think even watching some of his videos earlier on there of his practice sessions and what he was mentioning earlier on, once that sun comes up over that hill and a little bit and it might even be only a 1 or 2 degree temperature rise, it can be the whole difference between fish being more active than being dormant. Like so, fish on. So I think the longer he can stay in touch here, the better.
Yeah. He had one on there, didn't he?
He
did.
looked like he had one on it.
Yeah, no, I dropped it.
Dropped it.
That's a nice lie there. Now Cory's just coming into. He's got that bit of an island there. 2 nice little ripples down either side. Nice protective water. I would imagine that there'd be something sitting
Fish on
there
for Dave.
somewhere for Cory.
Fish on for Dave.
Sure.
So
Come on.
Dave dropped it.
Dave dropped him.
Cory's
Every-
on. Cory's on.
It's good fish.
Every fish you drop from now on is going to be really.
It's crucial. You drop one fish, your opponent catches another fish. That's a 2-fish swing straight away. Like so.
Fish for
Cory's
Cory.
in.
Fish for Cory. So, very interesting.
Awesome, bro.
Yeah, he's staying with him well.
Have you fished New Zealand much, Peter?
No, it's one of those countries that I
Fish on for Dave.
haven't managed to get to yet.
Fishing in there for Dave.
Fish for Dave.
We'll score for Dave. Fish on for Cory. Cory's found a really nice pocket here now, I think.
You're
And
up
this
by
could be-
2, 7-5.
He could be
7-5.
He could be in
You.
for
Yeah. That looks
that's
like
just the third fish he's met in that little pocket. That pocket could potentially hold another 1 or 2 for him, and if that was the case, it would be a nice little honey hole. it's gone, is it?
Yeah.
Ah, shit.
Yep.
Shame.
Unlucky.
That happens. That's competition fishing. That happens. Things just pop off sometimes. I know that more than anybody else. That's one of the things. You got to just shake it off now. He's got to shake it off. He's got to clear his mind and just refocus that there could be another fish there. There's 2 fish for Cory in that spot that didn't score. So that's a shame.
What would be going through your head right now?
You'd be kind of kicking yourself because I don't know if Cory knows the score, how close he is, but like those 2 fish there would have tied that match after 20 minutes. So that's a big thing for him. Like he needs to know he's still in the match. That he's in the hunt. That Dave's not getting it all his way, and that the value of those 2 fish were astronomical, really. Especially as we come down to the last few minutes. A lot of these close tournaments are only ever decided by 1 or 2 fish. So you kick yourself for a moment, get a few X out of you, and just shake it off and move on. Try and refocus again. It's trying to hang on too long.
And we see how there's a few questions about the net in a couple of interviews. We see Dave's walking around with the net in front of him. Is that how you fish as well, walking up rivers like that, ready to?
Again, it all depends on how prolific the river's fishing. If it's a spot where I'm, really short line and you're onion fin, and it's everyone's
Fish for Cory.
So everyone's kind of working out that the nymphs are swinging into the net. I'm not long line or anything like that, but then it's definitely for speed. It's a good practice. If I was more in a Cory situation there, get up behind me, focus on my fishing because I'm alternating between short nymph and long line, experimenting, trying to find those fish in different swims. Where Dave was going through that piece of water beforehand, it was very pistol across there, short, rapid water, good, short euro nymph water, and he can fish with it. He's coming up to a different piece of water now. He's coming into where two bits of the river meet again, but both sides of the island are even flow. So he's coming into a bit of a kind of slack piece here where the 2 joinings meet. Decent hole that can hold good fish, and it's going to be an opportunity for him possibly.
Does it get a bit deeper where Dave is now?
Back in towards his left-hand side here, there is a bit of a channel where the main current comes down, and that can be a good force of water coming down.
Fish on for Dave. Fishing in it for Dave.
Fish for that.
Fish today.
The water's quite dirty where Cory is compared to Dave. Is it
that winter river
easier fishing in a clearer water than the dirty water, or is it?
Yes and no, Josh. Sometimes a bit of a colour, a bit of a tinge on it can be help. For one, it disguises you, it disguises your
Fish
tip.
on for Dave. Fishing in it for Dave.
Fish for Dave.
Maybe allow you to fish a heavier tippet, so you can rip those nymphs through and bully fish maybe a bit more. So, it has its advantages and disadvantages. Sometimes though, coloured water, mucky water, can make fish a little bit sick. It kind of chokes up the gills and takes a bit of oxygen out of the water, so they can become sulky in mucky water. But he still has a bit of clarity there. I can still see a bit of clarity on his piece of water. He's coming into a nice, interesting piece here now. It's narrow. You can see the more defined ripples there, and he possibly could put a few scores in the card.
Thank you, brother.
So what Cory's doing there now, he's just literally lifting the nymphs up and just dropping them into the current below and letting them trot down downstream, because obviously he can't go downstream and cast back up into it. So he's just dropped the nymphs in and let the current drag them, sip them on down, and see if there's a fish there sitting in that current.
It's still quite close. Would Dave be
nothing in it?
Would
We've seen Cory hit 3 fish very quick, and he just needs one of those honey holes again to put the match back to level game.
See how quick it can turn around. Oh, the electric
Cameraman's going out. Commando again there.
For Dave.
Fish for Dave.
There's the score. Yeah. He's got a bit of deeper water there now. He's coming into, so we'll get a few there now.
Got David Mays come on, and he said, "Do you think that Cory is at a slight disadvantage given the fact that there is more likely to have to play bigger fish, which are a bit more difficult to get in the net faster in currents?"
Yeah, absolutely. Like, there's, you can look at this kind of a tournament that's here. That's the joys of this tournament. You get to pick your own piece of water, and we're fishing across the world here. Like, there's literally the full planet between these two guys right now at the moment. Season wise, and everything else. And yeah, you can say it's a bit of a disadvantage, but like at the same
Fishing
time,
in for Dave.
Fish for Dave.
fish there for Dave. And that's the angler's choice, if you wish to partake in these things. It's about learning, it's about pushing yourself, it's about competing. And if he's fishing a river with bigger fish, absolutely it makes like a little bit more challenging on the fact he's fishing in winter. But he's staying with Dave, like 35 minutes left, 25 minutes gone, and if he had picked up those two fish he dropped, you'd be looking at a very close game still. Like, so Dave's covered a lot of good water there now. He's only on 11, like, so. And it doesn't look like he's met too many more that he's actually dropped as such, bar one there, I think. So I certainly wouldn't be saying the Nor River's on fire at the moment. If Cory can just get into a pod here and pick off a pod of fish somewhere, like he met there on the side of that little island, there was 3 fish there, well then, he'd put himself right in this game and right close contention.
Fish on for Dave.
Fish on for Dave.
Fish in the net.
Fish in the net. Now, do you think any of these? Do you think Dave will try a dry fly at all?
I doubt it. I don't know what setups he's got there ready to go. I know when he comes up into the top of this piece of water that he's fishing, he's going to come into a long flat. Holds a lot of good fish. But whether he'll fish a dry fly or dry dropper up there is another thing,
Do the fish like to? Dave's fishing back towards the bank there. Do they like to sit right against the edge? Or?
When that particular spot where he is, so he's fishing up into a current that's coming down. You can see it just to the right hand side of the screen there. There's a current coming down, so he's basically standing in the joinings and fishing, nymphing back up into that little bit of broken pocket water there on his right hand side. But yeah, no, and in them kind of heavy currents, deep water, if you get that bit of an eddy in along by the bank, fish, brown trout will sit in there and just drift in and out of the heavy runs or the currents where they're picking off their food.
I was talking to Cory yesterday when he was practicing, and he said that he started to pick up fish about 8:15, and he fished the sort of same time. So I was coming into about the halfway mark when he started to pick up fish yesterday. So maybe they'll start to become active a bit
Fish
more.
on for Dave.
Fish for Dave.
Fish in the net for Dave.
Fish for Dave.
Here, Dave.
0.6. 0.7.
Rising, covered him.
Yep. Peeps Cubberstone said, "Give the hard, Cory Scott. Do the hucker."
Cory's doing it. He's in tough conditions here at winter time.
Fish on for Dave.
But he was
Fish in the
doing,
net for Dave.
Fish for Dave.
first 20 minutes there, he was staying in the game. And he's just gone through a really dry patch there now, and it's unfortunate that.
We saw that happen in the last games. Like there was about 10 or 15 minutes where people hardly touched the fish, and then towards the end it was just bang, bang, bang. So it's
we saw the Mark and Dave's game particularly. Mark went behind by quite a considerably amount there after 20 minutes. Dave put 10, 12 fish between them. But coming in there with 10 minutes to go, Mark brought it back to 8 fish. 8 fish in 10 minutes, if you find a good pocket of fish, it's not possible. So Yeah, you can see it. Like, you know, everyone hits their hunting holes at some stage. There's a fish on for Cory.
Donkey, eh?
A bit bigger.
Yeah, looks like a good fish here. Very valuable fish this one. Cory needs this now to get himself back in the game, get his confidence up. He hasn't put a score on the card since those two fish that dropped off from below. This fish is heading for that current.
Quite tough to play those bigger fish in that sort of water too, isn't it?
It is
Cory,
really
guys.
difficult. Fish in the net for Cory.
Fish in the net for Cory.
They look like a decent fish.
That was a good fish. Yeah, he made a good run there. Cory had to go after him there.
What's the most you've had to chase a fish down the river, mate?
Oh, good question. I got some fish in Slovenia over in the Dritsa River a few years ago. They were pretty strong, pretty hard fight fish, some marble trout and stuff like that. So yeah, travel a few hundred yards and a couple of hours. That's probably some of the longest. Probably some fish that should have went further to land them. Kind of, you know, after a while you think, yeah, the member's going to put a bit more pressure on this guy, and then the hook just doesn't hold, and maybe you should have went a bit further than river with him.
I remember Santry, who was coming up against on Monday up in Norway for salmon, and he hooked on and had to run about 200 or 300 metres down the river to get it. I was about 50 metres away from him netting the fish.
30-minute mark, brother.
Yeah, so we're just coming
Still only 7-9, Cory. You know, that's 3 or 4 fish now. If you can pick up a couple of fish fairly soon, he can start giving himself some confidence to get back into this game.
Do you know where Dave is right there on the north?
Pitch on for Cory, is it?
Yeah. Big boy, I think.
Oh, the big one.
Fish on for Dave. Fish in the net for Dave.
Dave just scored.
Fish in the net for Dave.
Dave.
Cory's got another decent sized fish here.
Yeah, that's what
That's why
big
people
one.
fish New Zealand, I hear. Big one. What is a rainbow, you reckon?
Yeah, we only got rainbows in this.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
You have to be pretty careful. How
15-7 to you. Up by 8.
how would you play this? Would you just let him, or would you try and drag him in this position?
Look, fish are valuable in Cory's position right now. You know, he's while he's going to keep the pressure on that fish and look for an opportunity to make a stab at him. Nonetheless, he can't afford to drop him. So, you know, you play the game with the fish. You know, the current makes a factor. You know, Cory's doing really well there. Keep the fish upstream from him, stop him from getting into that. You can see on the outside of him there, there's a good push of water there. That fish gets out into that push of water and turns Cory around, starts heading downstream. Straight away, the fish is in control there. Cory stays in the position he's in right now. He's got a good bit of control. He's holding that fish well. And, you know, just give him a couple of seconds to settle. At some stage, he'll make a stamp. And here we go. Cory's still trying to keep him upstream. The rod is upstream. And he's making his way down. That fish is going ahead. You run the risk.
This is by far the biggest fish.
Here, he's got him really in control now. He's got him in a long time. No, that's it.
Took off again.
Gonna have to go.
He's still trying to keep him upstream.
Yeah, he's trying to get down below that fish. He's trying to stay with him. He's trying not to let that fish get too below. He's got to recover quickly now. He's got to transition quickly.
Fish on for Dave.
Getting that fish back in the water and get back up and keep clocking on, you know.
There we go,
Fish
guys.
still on. Good fish.
Good fish.
That's a beautiful fish.
Fish in the net for Dave.
Fish in the net for Dave as well.
Yeah.
So I'm fishing 0.10 tippet just to get the flies down in such deep holes, so I can't muscle them.
Nice, nice. Good job.
Fish.
There you go, bro.
Well,
They're the children.
Mark was saying you need to try and keep your fitness level up if you want to get into competition fishing in his interview, and you can see why.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
If you're in Dave's position right now, would you always stay in the water, or would you try and be out of the water?
Yeah, where he's fishing right now, because of the expanse of the River Nore, and because you can see that slack water to the lower side of the screen, it's going to be quite difficult to pick fish out of that. There might be some small fish sitting there, but it can be very difficult. So yeah, he's in a good position there now. He's just again nymphing down along the margin there of the main current, where you would expect him fish to be sitting, drifting in and out to feed. I always like being in the water. I do find I fish more effectively when I'm in the river.
No.
Cory there is doing a bit of bow and arrow casting. Very useful cast to have in your toolbox. He's obviously just nymphing the pocket in up along under the bank of the river.
That's something you need to practice a fair bit, or does it come fairly natural?
Something you need to practice, but it's also something you need to have confidence in. So through practice and catching fish on it, it can be a very effective, especially if in tight rivers with low tree coverage and stuff like that. Bow and arrow casting can be hugely effective. If you've got a 10-foot rod and you're holding back 10 foot of tippet to your nymph and you ping that in under a tree, that thing can possibly reach 15 to 20 foot. So it can be hugely effective cast in a very tight spot. But again, it's like any kind of different kind of cast approach, and you got to practice it, not just to perfect it, but to have confidence that you can take fish out on it.
But we've got Claude Cipoletti. I think that's how you.
Hey Claude, how are you keeping? Claude's from Canada. Met him in the Worlds in Italy. He was the captain of the Canadian team in Italy, the World Championships, Josh.
I remember him, yeah. We've got Nick Langdon says, tell Super Mario to keep up with Cory. I take it that's the.
That was the cameraman.
I take it.
That's it.
Cory again coming into a nice piece of water here. You can see a shelf there just out beyond where he's fishing. And he was on the move now. Dave's fished out that spot now. Here's a chance for Cory to pull back.
Old bull on the move.
They've got a fair way to walk.
16-8. You're off by 8.
He's got to get around the other side of the island. Here's Cory on a fish now. This is an opportunity here for Cory. Get a few fish in
Cory.
And get that scoreboard ticking over. Put a little bit of pressure on Dave. Dave's got to move around the island. He's got to back across the river and reset himself. It's moving across the river. The Nore can be a rocky river at times. Dave's fishing. There's an awful lot of boulders there. Football size are a little bit smaller, and it makes wading very awkward. It can be very annoying walking across the river. So he's got a bit of movement to do here. And
I'm not sure. Did we ask Cory what stream that he's fishing? We've got Craig Knowlton asking. Okay.
I don't know.
Same as last week. Why Makariri?
By Makariri. So how quick does it get dark over there in Ireland?
It fades away. Looking out the window now, it fades away over kind of an hour and a half. So it's not a light switch. And the light is dropping a bit for him. You can see the camera there. That can play a factor that fish start to move up in the water table. Fish can move up in the water table because it's coming into evening rise time. And also, you're not able to see your indicators quite as clearly as you were before. So can play a little bit of a factor.
Would Dave actually looks like he's running back down to where he started? Would he fit the same water again coming up, or would you go?
Surely can. That particular piece of river, it is very quickly recyclable, and the North trout do recover quite well. So he looks like he's going to do a second one. Yeah.
Right over the far side.
Cory's resetting here again now, and
Oh.
unfortunate. Cory can get on a few fish here. Dave's going back through second run. You know, he's not guaranteed another 16 fish going back up there. So, you know, things will slow up a little bit for Dave here. See if Cory can get a bit of momentum and get those nymphs in the water and keep them there for as long as possible, and pick off a few small fish. He can start to close the gap here.
What's your intake? Do the fish after they've been caught and you put them back, do they tend to sit in the same spot or do they take off?
They tend to hang around a similar. It depends on the fish, the strain of fish. Every river is different. I know on the River Nor,
Take your time.
as it's my home river, they do recover very quickly there. Now, I wouldn't say you know throw a cast in 30 seconds later you'll catch the same fish, but they certainly do recover a lot quicker there than you would on other rivers. You know, every river is different, and even the times of the year fish will recover differently. It depends on the oxygen in the water and other factors as well. You know, and how they've been treated. You know, if you can get them back in there pretty quick, pretty easy, they can recover very quickly, and you certainly have a chance of catching within a few minutes, 10, 15 minutes maybe afterwards.
Jason Corcoran says, "Come on, the old dog. Dave can see in the dark, no problem."
Dave he's in the debate. I think he's in the debate now. He's decided now not to go back the second time. And now he's going to go for a move. He's going to have a big move here. Again, this is a real opportunity for Cory here. Dave's doing 16 for the last 5-6 minutes. He's moving. He's in the decision process for him. And Cory needs to get some fish on the card here right now.
Push on for Cory. Fish in the net for Cory.
Man, Cory. He's in striking distance now. He's only 6 fish behind. Plenty of time left on the clock. Dave is in a bit of a debate here now in his mind, I'd say, at the moment. What do I do next? Where do I go? Do I make the long trek up above the flat to the next piece of running water? Or do I go back out there and hit that piece of water again? So, you know, this is a real crucial moment for both angles.
Fish on for Dave.
Fish on for Dave.
Fish in the net for Dave.
So this could be the make or break sort of a decision.
This moment, now, unfortunately, Cory wasn't probably as effective there as he could have been in those 5-10 minutes when Dave was kind of moving around, changing, and you know you can see him changing his mind now and stuff. There's stuff going through his head. So this is a chance for Cory here. Just get another couple of that fish here quick.
We've got someone on here called Multi-Your Bushler. Does that ring a bell? I can't say it properly, but anyway, they've come up with some movement from the 2 bulls up and down the river, fit as fiddles.
Oh, that's Smoother. That's Kevin Buckley, I'd say. I think that's Kevin Buckley. So his name is an Irish. You're reading an Irish name, our native language. So that's Kevin, I'd say. Yeah.
Sorry about that, Kev.
Very well as well. Kevin would have fished this river a lot over the last 2 or 3 seasons. The River North. So he would have. He'd know where Dave is fishing right now. So he's on the move again. He's really searching water there to get some fish.
Josh, how much time is
There is 18 minutes and 38 seconds.
18 minutes. 18 minutes.
I think Cory kind of the day is not really taken up the way Cory was expecting.
You're up by
We
7.
can see an awful lot of mist and kind of fog there. So that sun is not going to play its factor that maybe he was hoping for. And at that particular time of the session where the sun is going to break through, it looks like to me that it's quite foggy and
Fish on. Fish in the net for Dave.
Fish for Dave. So with this sort of fishing too, it can just come down to the weather as well, can't it?
absolutely plays a huge factor.
He said, "Sorry, lads, Peter is dead right. Kevin here, keep it up, lads." Nice to see Cory get a couple more.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, that was a real opportunity there for Cory. When Dave was, making the changes, his mind was straight. If Cory could have hit a little bit of a pocket there at that particular time, he certainly could have, brought back that match very close, put a bit of pressure on Dave. And again, as was mentioned before, forced David to maybe making a decision he didn't want to make. So it was a real opportunity. And that's it, when you get the opportunity these matches, you got to be, you got to try and take them. You got to try and maximize that time that you have, and keeping the flies in the water, keep fishing, keep effective, keep focused, and look to close that gap. It's never over till it's over.
Must say the camera guys are doing great work at the moment.
Yeah, great work today,
Fish on.
guys. Yeah, staying good close. And
Fish in the net.
Fish for Dave. Yep.
Cory's in again. This looks like a good fish as well.
Got him downstream now, has it?
Yeah, the fish has kind of got him downstream. It kind of turned him there fairly quickly. But Cory's trying to recover here. Keep the pressure upstream on that rod. Keep the fish. You can lead those fish, with mother and infant rods, 2 weights, 3 weights. That spring, that backbone, it's in those rods. You put a bit of pressure on that fish, keep him under the surface, and he will follow the swim like so. Cory turned him around really well there and managed to get it downstream up. There he goes again, another dart and run.
Must be a good fish.
Yeah.
We've got Graham Reggie Reynolds here. How's it going, boys? Big hello to Peter.
Hey, Graham.
Irishman living in Sweden. Fished with Pete a few times in the lakes comps back home.
Yeah, just Graham. He's living in Sweden a good few years now.
Okay, you're up by 9. There's about 15 minutes left.
He's had to play a few of these bigger fish for quite some time, hasn't he?
Yeah, and it's not just that, but they're also very valuable fish. Like so,
Fish for Cory, guys.
Fish for Cory.
You're taking your time. You're trying not to force it too much as regards take your time. Make sure the fish gets on the scorecard as well. They're top quality fish. Like they're beautiful. Yeah.
I'm going to earn my beer tonight.
So,
Dave's having to reset there now. So, again, here's another little opportunity for Cory to take back a couple of fish. If we can get a couple of fish here, there's only 8 fish in it, 14 minutes to go. It's going to be a tall order for him, but certainly push it a bit closer.
Tom O'Connor.
Fish on for Dave.
Fish on for Dave.
Fish in the net for Dave.
That was a good shot, Dave. We've got Tom O'Connor said would have given Dave around the 20 mark on the Blackwater, so it looks like a good choice, the Nor. And we've got Dakota Harford. He's a mate over in the US. He says major jealous, you guys. Hoping to be a part of this soon. Philip Hodgkin is
moving in there now. He's gonna cover some ground here again.
Oh, Phil, he's the partner in Fish Coin. He's come on and he wanted to say great camera work from the guy.
They're doing really well today. Even though Cory's cameraman's he's been going commando there for the last while, trying to keep up with him, but yeah, doing a great job, guys.
Today, 13 minutes, just over 13 minutes to go.
No, take your time. Work this up.
Do you think Cory's gone right down and going to keep going fishing in front of him, or is he going to come back?
I'd say, but the way he's marching through that river, ain't nothing going to turn him back. He's got something in mind. He's at practice this water. Pretty much all the decent pockets he's stopped in to fish. He's met fishing now. Unfortunately, just didn't get those couple that time when he met 3 in a row there. During the stage where Dave, was kind of not fishing properly there for 5 or 10 minutes. He got a bit of a snag or tangle or lost it in for something there. He had to reset. So he's practiced on this water. He knows where the fish are. Everywhere he's stopping, he's getting fish, but unfortunately, he's just not picking up the numbers he needs.
That can play a big mind game. If those 3 fish back when he had those 2 go.
Absolutely, that would have put him in the lead at that stage. Like he would have been 9-8 up at that stage or whatever. And you know, and momentum is everything in these competitions. So it would have been, you know, every fish counts. Every fish counts.
We heard you say once that just catch 1 fish at a time in this
Absolutely, absolutely. That's all you can do. Just keep catching that
Fish
one
on for Dave.
fish. If you start off your
Fishing net for
tournament
Dave.
or your match
fish for Dave.
looking for 20 fish or 30 fish or whatever it may be, or 15 fish, you know, that's the wrong agenda to start out with. You know, you start out, you look for that 1 fish, you get that 1 fish in the net, and then you go after the next fish. You know, you focus on every cast with the anticipation that's the cast that's going to get you that next fish. You know, not looking too far up the river, thinking, oh, there's a nice honey hole, I can't wait to get up there, and I'm just not going to really focus on the water that's in front of me. So, you know, you've got to be on every single cast, have, you know, to be expecting to catch that fish.
Terry Phillips come on board and he said, "Great show, guys. Camera work perfect. Some lumps for Cory and the best of the Irish for Dave."
You have about 10 minutes left.
10 minutes, 11 minutes, just under 11.
11 minutes.
Just under 11 minutes.
Cory needs to get on the scorecard here quick. And he's in that nice piece of water there. He's got a little bit of a break in the middle, dividing the river up, and pick off a couple here now.
Looks a little bit similar to where he was earlier on.
Yeah, it does actually, to where he met those couple of fish. Yeah.
You can see he doesn't spend much time in one little spot, does he?
I think when he's fishing that kind of river and that kind of time of year, you know, you're checking those pockets. He mentioned that in his practice interviews as well. You know, he's going to check those pockets, or those pockets, and you know, if he meets a fish there, well and good. But he can't afford to sit there too long, hoping that, you know, after 10 or 15 casts, he's going to get a fish. You know, he's looking for numbers here, so he's just jumping up, hitting the hot pockets. 2 or 3 casts. If you get a fish, good. If he doesn't, move on.
Guy and Luca reckons Dave will finish on 23 and Cory on 14. That's his prediction. 23-14.
That'd be
Chris Smith just come on and he said fish the Wymack quite a bit, and Cory's doing a cracking job with those bigger fish. The water's deceptively strong, which makes moving through those buggers bloody hard. David May's come on and asked where Cory is fishing. Is it difficult to find shoals of small fish? Now we can probably ask Cory that one later.
he met a few small fish there up through his section there.
Yeah.
And again, time of year, they might just be in that particular type of water.
We're just under 9 minutes to go.
Under 9 minutes, you're up by 10.
Looked like he had a touch then.
Yeah.
Is New Zealand on your list?
Yeah.
Peter?
Absolutely, yeah. Gee, it sure is. New Zealand, your home part of the world, Tasmania, Australia, they're all on the list somewhere along the way. Got a young family at the moment, so, you know, leaving, I qualified for the world down there, but leaving for 3 or 4 weeks, you know, I just couldn't do it. So when the kids get a bit older, I think it'll be more of a family trip. Head down there, spend a couple of months down there, and get to see as much of it as possible.
Listen.
Dave's got a fish now. It's better looking fish there. Kind of took him downstream a bit. He's reaching for him in the net.
Fishing net for Dave.
That's a better looking fish for Dave there now.
Even if you get like smaller fish, go just get down the river from you? Is it really tough to get
You
them
see the way
back
that
up?
fish is kind of slapping around on the surface, like, you know, and you're kind of skating them back up. Sometimes they can just, you know, knock themselves off nearly off the riffles and stuff. So you're trying to those smaller fish. You're trying to keep that contact, keep that strain, and you know, keep them coming to the net as smoothly as possible. Ideally, you'd like to take them upstream, and just take them into the net very quickly rather than downstream. They kind of have a bit more control, and they have a bit more. They can have more opportunities to put off there. The smaller fish, because they're up flicking around on the surface, and it could be a tense moment trying, you know, just to bang them into the net.
Is there ever a time where you've stepped into
Sean.
the water, fish on,
Fishing in it for Dave.
fish for Dave? Is there ever a time where you stepped in the water thinking, I don't know how deep this water is, and just go for it and then go under?
Absolutely. Devil Stones in Czech Republic at the World Championships. You know, you're staring down at black water, big rocks, thinking, I know where this is going to stop. When I go down this rock, I need to get to the other side, especially in the later sessions, you know, when all the near banks are fished. You got to cross that river. You got to get to possibly to a piece of water where fish are lying up and that haven't been touched, or they're hiding there because they have been caught. They've gone into more protective lies. So absolutely, there's been plenty of times I've slid down off rocks or taken that step, that leap of faith, to call it, and just go for it. But you know, when you're in the heat of the moment, you're in the championships, you know, that's the adrenaline. Adrenaline is going to carry you through that, and you just go for it. Yeah, you have to go for it, you know, because you can't ask that question of yourself afterwards, saying, "Oh, I wish I, you know, if I'd have only went for it, what could have happened? Many fish could have got over there." But you always got to remember, you got to bring that fish back. So, you know, if you go through a deep hole to get to a spot, you got to come back through that deep hole to get that fish back to your controller. So, weigh up your options. But yeah, I've done it plenty times.
Jonas Olsen says, Peter, do all Irish rivers hold big numbers of trout? Because it seems like it.
Yeah, our Irish rivers, and Eamon Conway mentioned it in his coverage there last day. You know, we're very lucky here in Ireland. We've
About 6 minutes.
a fabulous array of Irish rivers here in the country, and you know, great variety in those rivers. And the majority of them do tend to hold an abundance of trout. Some more than others, and some larger runs of fish than others. But they're wild. They're all wild fish. Yes, they're under pressure like every other wild species on the planet. But you know, they are, yeah, a lot of rivers, especially down to the Midlands, the North Shore, the Blackwater down in the south. You know, you got the Plain River up in the
About 5, 6 minutes.
and they're just a handful of rivers, like, you know, small handful of the rivers we have, but most of them do tend to hold a good head of trout. Some bigger than others.
Just under 4.5 minutes to go, guys. We've got we've got Graham Lonigan's come on. And he said, "I'd say Cory would eat an Irish breakfast after this miles is done."
Cory's on a fish jersey. Cory's on a fish jersey.
Still on? Or?
The honour's just moving. No, he was just moving back downstream. I thought the way he was moving downstream, it possibly fish.
Yeah. Shane Cummings. Hi, Josh and Peter. Some great fishing from both guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, the scoreboard reads a little bit differently, but Cory's doing really well here. You know, he's had his chances. He's fished this piece of water really well.
Dave's just sneaking up. So they're just
Yeah.
over 3 minutes. Looks like Cory's, is he on?
No.
Just Duty and Forbes, where in Ireland Dave fishing? Is it Kilkenny?
Much time, Josh.
Kenny on the River Nore.
Just under 3 minutes there, Mark.
Under 3 minutes.
Yeah, River Nore, Judy in Kilkenny.
Yeah. A couple of years ago, myself and Dave did a challenge. We fished 100 rivers in 6 days. 6 days, 5 hours and 50 minutes. It was a fantastic challenge. That shows you the volume, and that was only in 2 provinces out of the 4. The shows you the volume of rivers we have here in Ireland are fantastic, and an awful lot of them are
Up by
unexplored.
12.
So for the visiting angler, Ireland is a really, treasure trove of the unknown when it comes to river fishing. You go off the beach track and fish some of the tributaries as well as the main rivers like the North that Dave is on there, the shore, as mentioned before, the Blackwater. But there's an abundance of rivers over here, and most of them
What was the challenge again? You had to.
So it was a 100 river challenge. We basically fished together, and we had to fish 100 rivers. We had to get 100 rivers to qualify. In order for a river to qualify to be on the list, and we had to catch an 8-inch fish, a Phipps Moose qualifying fish each on that particular river, recorded with a photograph, and then that river counts. So if we went onto a river, let's say the Nore, and I got a fish, and after 40 minutes Dave couldn't get a qualifying fish, well then that river didn't count. We'd move on to another river. So we fished 120 rivers in total over a 6-day period, and the whole challenge was to do it within 7 days.
That's crazy.
Just shows you the volume of rivers we have. It was brilliant. It was great, great way to see all those small little rivers and streams and big rivers. I think we drove something like 3,500 kilometers, slept for something like 11 hours for the entire week, and it was the hottest week of the year as well. So we were in Dave's Deep, living in our waders, melting. It was great.
Jason Chapman, he must have just come on. He asked, have you ever fly fish New Zealand? He said,
No, not yet.
Just under 50 seconds to go, guys.
Dave has this one in the bag. He moves on to the final. Cory can certainly hold his head high. He put in a great show there. I think, a lot of people wrote him off there kind of earlier on, and before the match, saying that he wasn't going to have a chance. But I think he had his chances there at times. After 25 minutes there, the match should have been level. He could have even been one ahead after 25 minutes. Not saying the result might have been any different, but nonetheless, he was definitely keeping with Dave there for the half the match. And few little things went his way, and it could have been a close match. Easy.
15 seconds.
15 seconds. Yeah. Game over.
Game over.
Finish. Well done, boy.
Wow.
Well done, guys. Well done. Great match. Great match.
Awesome. Great job, Captain. Let's just grab Cory. If we can just grab Cory. I think he needs a bit of a drink break.
Where's my orange boy?
23-11.
How are you, Cory? How you feeling?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah. Apart from dropping those 2 fish, I fished as good as I thought I could. It's interesting because where I started, I figured would be worth 2 or 3 fish. This hole behind me should have had 1. This should have had 3. That should have had 5, and up the top should have had about 7 or 8, which is what my recon from 3 weeks ago was, and it was empty. So it shows you how patchy the winter fishing is. The fish move on; they don't stay put. We had a flood last week. It's obviously pushed all the fish out. That was a game of 2 halves, really, wasn't it?
Really was. Cory, watching you there, you were moving through a lot of water, and at one stage, I think after maybe 20, 25 minutes, you were just a fish or 2 fish behind, so you were well in the match. And you hit those 2 fish that you just didn't put on the scorecard. I suppose what at that particular time, what was kind of going through your mind, or what kind of did you realise the importance? Because that would have put you 1 fish ahead after coming nearly.
Yeah, I go 1 fish by 1, 1 cast by 1 cast,
Yeah.
1 fish by 1 fish. So I put all that behind me. That fish that I dropped, the first one, the fly landed. He actually turned from upstream and came down on it. So it was never a great hookup. He was coming down like that, and I saw him take the fly. So he was always heading downstream. So it was never, it was possibly going to pop the hook anyway. So then the next one, I was probably a little flustered from the first one, but I took a moment there. I retied, changed the hook just in case it had dulled off a little, and then reset. But I just didn't come onto any more honey holes.
That's fishing, yeah. That's fishing as unfortunately. You were covering some nice water there, and say in the first half of the match you were well in the game there. You were keeping up, and it was good and close, you know.
Yeah, the fog didn't lift like you were probably hoping.
No, it actually got worse. It got colder, and as you can see, probably bit of Puff the Magic Dragon happening.
Now, we saw you land a few big ones there. What would have been around the biggest, do you think?
I'd say the first one under all those snags, he was probably the longest.
Yeah.
He would have been about 56, 57.
Yep.
I think the one just downstream here, he was the strongest. He was a little football. He was probably 45, 46, but he was like deep. And those fish just drain time. They, as you saw, that probably got it on camera. That's 3 or 4 minute fight.
Yeah.
Now, Cory,
and then also those fish are territorial.
Fish,
so, what's that?
when you're playing those bigger fish, how important is it? I was noticed when you're playing those fish, you know, you're making every effort possible to keep that fish above you. How important is that when you're playing those strong fish and heavy current to get that fish below you?
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned heavy current because it's actually, it looks like quite a petite stream, but it's actually got a lot of velocity.
Mm.
So even when you're wading knee deep, it's wanting to rip you downstream. And so I'm always looking for the softer water. So in behind us here, we've got this faster water. And I'm trying to always bring the fish into something like this little edge here.
Yeah.
I'm always scanning downstream, looking for a little soft piece that I can just hold the fish there and wear him out. If he holds in the current, he's not wearing himself out. He's using the current to wear me out and I tip it out. So you've got to get the fish into the softer water to just keep the pressure on him and make him do the work. And then there'll come an opportunity where he'll just come to the surface and just swoop straight away.
Yeah. You played out some fish well there. Well done.
Thank you.
Great effort there, Cory. Great effort, mate. Are you happy with your score? I know you're probably not, but what score were you hoping for? What were you thinking?
I honestly thought I didn't really hope for much more than 15. 15 was pretty much my limit. The sky's the limit. Yeah. If I'd landed those two, it was still only 13. Yeah. And I don't like to finish on 13. That's a real shit number to finish on. So that's why I dropped that fish, so I didn't land on 13.
Ah, man, that's good.
Nice. All right, well, let's head over to Dave. Dave, how are you feeling, mate? You're into the grand final.
Drink a pint of Guinness now if I had it. Yeah, look, come here. I got off to a great start. I had I think 2 fish in 3 or 4 seconds. The first couple of casts. Everything went my way. I met the right size fish. There were the smaller ones, which I knew would be there. I met a few big ones, but broken 3 or 4. But towards the end there, I was meeting a fish a cast, but they wouldn't stay on. Literally every cast I was meeting that little bang, bang, bang. But it's the time of the evening. It was, look, things went my way. Sorry, Cory. I know you. I think Cory came really after me there. At one stage, I think I was up 5-1 or 5-2, and then it was 7-6. I said, "Oh, Cory's in a pod." So, but I knew I still had plenty of good water. I didn't really panic. But I knew Cory's type of water only suited big fish, and I was happy. I can't complain.
Yeah, there was one stage there that Peter mentioned before, like he were like 5 or 6 in front, and then all of a sudden 7-6, and then Cory accidentally dropped 2 fish, which would have put him in front, and then things could have got really interesting then, but didn't go that way either. But it was it was great to watch.
Yeah. I don't know how the light is showing, but it's getting pretty dark here now. But it's just where I picked. I didn't have to walk too far. There's an island out there, so that split the river in 2. So that kind of gave me more options. I had 4 options, 4 banks instead of 2 banks, and there's lots of little nooks and crannies, a lot of boulders in there. Look, it's just you know, I think Cory said it in his interview this morning or last night that our style of water here suits this type of fishing. Cory has to try and get numbers in rivers out. I've been to Tasmania last year, and I know what it's like. I mean, you're traveling to get a couple of fish. You get a couple here, a couple of there, but No, I think Cory did excellent to get 11 fish in an hour on those rivers out there this time of the year.
Yeah. All right. We'll head back to Cory for a second. Like, I want to say, well done, mate, and hopefully we might be able to have a little chat to you during the week sometime, and after the game, and get your thoughts on the grand final coming up.
Yeah, for sure. No, congratulations, Dave. Yeah, you had me pretty nervous. I hadn't even walked in the water, and you already had a fish in the net. But I just blocked that out, even though I could hear the speaker the whole time. I just went into the zone where I just couldn't hear anything. And even when Billy was telling me the time, I've got my own countdown. I just blocked all of that out. So, but well fished, Dave. Congratulations and all the best in the final. May the luck of the Irish be with you.
Thanks, Cory. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, awesome work, guys, and a big thank you to Peter Driver for jumping on board. As
Pleasure to be here and watching two competitors battle it out there. Two good competitors. Great match. Well done to both anglers.
Yeah, and we look forward to seeing you on Monday, Peter, against
Monday, 2 o'clock.
Finland.
Yeah.
It should be another cracking match. So stay tuned for that one. Second semi-final coming up. Whoever wins that one will be playing against Dave in the grand final. So well done, and thank you everyone for watching, and thanks for all your questions. And we look forward to seeing you on Monday. And for now, Fly Fish Live. We'll see you later.
Good night,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Well,
Good morning.